Hi, I'm Kirby Godell, a co-host of Inside Political Science and a professor of political science at the Bush School at Texas A&M University.
And I'm Todd Kent, also a co-host of Inside Political Science and a professor at the Bush School of Government in the Department of Political Science.
Todd, since last we talked, we have a vice presidential nominee. The vice presidential sweepstakes is over, and we have maybe 2 tickets that'll stay through Election Day.
It looks that way, and I have to say, I was very surprised at the pick. I mean, there's a lot of reasons that we can talk about, but it's a very surprising pick, and I think that's going to, as we analyze it, it's going to tell us a lot about at least the Democratic ticket and what we should expect going in the future.
Yeah, the surprising thing about the pick is Walz was not up at the top of the list at the very beginning of the cycle, and then he sort of elevates over time, and especially when he calls the Republican ticket weird. And since that time, he's picked up ground and gathered a lot of support, especially among insiders. He is not a well-known name. He's not a well-known figure, but everyone in Washington knows him, and he seems to have a lot of people who like him, even across the aisle.
You know, it's very interesting that I looked at some polls from July, which was literally a week ago, and he was not even asked about in the polls. So there was 6 to 8 other candidates that were considered that they were polling to see who was popular among the voters, and he was not even mentioned. So, which is very interesting. It seems to be like, to me, that he's probably an insider pick, meaning that the more progressive wing of the Democratic Party was pushing him for a number of reasons that I think we can get into, but that he was not on very many radars. That's for sure.
Yeah, no, this is definitely, if you're watching the Olympics right now, this is definitely a come-out-of-nowhere victory over other people who are the favorites in the race. I don't know if anybody watched the 1,500 meter, but if you're watching the Olympics, that's the type of thing that we saw happen here with Tim Walz just coming from out of nowhere and claiming this. It's sort of a case study for people who are interested in political science. This is a case study in how to campaign for the vice presidency when other people when you're not on someone else's radar.
Yeah, that's exactly true, and I think it really begs the question, why Tim Walz? What does he bring to the table that these others did not bring to the table? And because I think that's important. I look back to 2008. In fact, 16 years ago this month, the headline in the New York Times was Obama pick adds foreign policy expertise to the ticket. And, back then I remember where Barack Obama was considered a kind of a domestic policy person, needed somebody to shore up his foreign policy credentials. So that kind of makes me want to know, what does Tim Walz bring to the table? What are his credentials that help shore up this ticket, or is it something else?
Yeah, so one thing that was surprising to me, and we talked about this before, one of the surprising things was that we thought you would go with someone who helps on the Electoral College map. Walz does not seem to do that. In fact, if Minnesota's in danger of turning red, then the whole thing is lost for the Democrats, right? And so he's not bringing electoral gains. He does bring this insider connection, though, and I think that sometimes for people looking outside into political science, into politics, they miss this. Knowing people, having good relations with people in Washington is incredibly important, especially for working within Congress. Walz has been a member of Congress. He's a well-liked member of Congress, and he's been a governor now, and so he has executive leadership, and he ticks a lot of boxes, even though he doesn't add much in terms of an electoral map, unless you're thinking very broadly about the fact that he mobilizes the base, he excites labor unions, and he excites the political insiders.
Yeah, and if there's one thing that the pick tells us is this whole presidential race is about the Midwest. Certainly, we think about Minnesota, which we presume will vote with the Democrats. And then you've got Ohio, which we think will go Republican. But then Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania are considered toss-up. I was looking at the Real Clear Politics map today, and they were considered toss-up states. And so I think the choice of J.D. Vance from Ohio, and now we have Tim Walz from Minnesota, show how the importance of the Midwest is in this race. And so I think we're going to see a lot of effort put there, but it also kind of makes us kind of ask the question: why not a governor of Pennsylvania, which would is clearly a state that's in play?
Yeah, and he's a real curious mix of politics, right? He's a former football coach. He helped coach a team that didn't win a game and took him to a state championship later. Now he was an assistant coach on the team. He wasn't necessarily the head coach, but he's been a football coach. He's a hunter. He's a gun owner. So he ticks a lot of. If you're thinking about sort of a person who maybe appeals to Middle America, he is strong on a lot of those issues. On the other hand, as a governor, he's also been very progressive, and so the challenge going forward is: does he end up helping more among one of the groups? Does he create a conflict among these groups? How does he play out going forward? Is he going to be defined as a progressive? Is he going to be defined as a moderate? Because he kind of cuts both ways, and I don't think he's going to be able to walk that fence for very long. Somebody's going to push him off.
Right. I think they're going to define him as the best they can. If you listen to his speech in Pennsylvania, he talked a lot about these small town values, being a teacher and all these things that would kind of appeal to rural America. But the problem is, just as you just pointed out, some of his progressive stance, especially when it comes to crime or during the BLM activities, is transgender policies, and gender-affirming care and that time of things in Minnesota. Those are not issues that appeal to that rural voter that he's trying to reach, or that small-town voter. They tend to be a little more conservative. And so as he's defined, that's where I wonder we'll be able to see, is he really adding value to this ticket?
So one of the things we won't know until we look to the future is whether this is a good pick, and that's one of the reasons we're watching the future. We're looking to see how well they work together, whether there are any mistakes, how they're painted by the other side. These are all the details of politics that you have to pay attention to. Remember, when it comes to vice presidents, it's usually that people vote at the top of the ticket, not for the vice president. Well, that's all we have for this particular episode. We're going to keep following the campaign, and we're going to keep telling you what we think about it, and we're going to keep pulling out those insights. Please listen or watch on our podcast platforms, on YouTube, on Apple Podcasts, and on KAMU. Thank you.